Okay, hello everyone and welcome to what may seem like an illusion. It's not an illusion, we promise you. It's the return of the Talking Crap podcast.
We told you it would happen. We may have told you it would happen like last month, but we said it would happen.
Yes, we're utilising the local lockdown, or the lockdown that's in force in the United Kingdom, to advantage, and we're trying to bring the podcast back. And we're starting with a topic which I think we're all very excited, both very excited about. And I think it's going to be really fun for you guys to watch and listen to. We're talking about the kind of defining tag teams of the early 2000s, and that is, of course, the triple threat of the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian. I was amazed at how successful these teams are /were, because they're all at the moment, at this point in time, they are all at the moment not together, because obviously they're all in different companies, which is really quite unique. Apart from Edge and Christian, who are definitely on the Dudley umbrella, but Christian is obviously retired.
They're kind of on and off appearances at this point.
Yeah, at the time of recording anyway. But we got to do this, we've got three guests, and we've got three guests who we're going to talk about different things with, different tag teams with. So we're joined by returning guests, Sam Defrain and Vinny Daniels, from DKW, which is Sam Defrain. You might see on DKW Demolition. He will be competing for the British Championship this coming Thursday, in fact, on episode 4. Episode 4. And we're joined by a close friend of mine, Ben Hewitt, who joined later on. I said, let's get going. Shall we get the first guest?
We might as well, yeah.
Yeah, we're coming now.
Okay, so our first guest, star of DKW Demolition, this week going to compete for the British Championship. Good luck. We have returned to the Talking Crap podcast, Sam Defrain.
Afternoon. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're okay. Well, I'm okay. We are not a couple. Josh, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
We're going to talk mainly about the Dudley Boys in this section. So we're talking about the three kind of era-defining tag teams, and we're starting with the Dudley Boys, who the first point we're going to discuss basically is their championship success. And championships obviously are what a lot of wrestling is kind of defined by. And when you look at the Dudley Boys, my God, they won just about every tag team championship going. And they're kind of synonymous, I think we can all agree they're kind of synonymous with when we think of tag team champion, like Dudley Boys have got to be up there, like surely. They won championships in ECW, in Impact Wrestling, IWGP tag team championships, and of course in the WWE, where they are, until the New Day break the record, the record-breaking tag team championship runs. I think it's 9 reigns they've had with the championships in the WWE. Oh, you muted. Huh? You might
something along those lines. Yeah, it's got to be close to 10.
Yeah, I think it's 9 reigns they've had. Yeah, nine reigns they've had in WWE in total. So talking championships, Sam, are the Dudley Boys deserving of that record, that title of kind of most championships won by a tag team
ever?
The amount of titles that the Dudley Boys had. They could probably create a mosaic on their wall of their faces. I mean, they were quite good. I mean, they remind me of the Trailer Park Boys. They used to come in with the tie-dye and the dungarees and all that sort of thing, and even like the camouflage. They were definitely unique, and the stuff they used to do in ECW as well. There wasn't really much of a tag team in ECW, and the Dudleys were sort of the definitive tag team of ECW back in the late 90s. But I definitely think that they definitely deserved their title reigns that they had. And then obviously they went on, did a few singles bits, came back as a tag team again. And definitely one of the top 3 tag teams of all time, without a doubt.
Which is the thing, we are talking about 3 tag teams today, and maybe they are that in that order. We're not too sure. I mean, in terms of championships as well, I know their look. Like you said, a lot of people forget the tie dye Dudleys, because that was very ECW, the tie dye. And the WWE, and since then, made their camouflage and took over. But I think it definitely gives them a kind of unique kind of look. And they're kind of like a host tag team, like they're two big guys, they're two big guys, and they're very hard hitting. They followed it after a little bit like a Public Enemy, that kind of thing in ECW, and the attitude stuff they did in ECW made them very edgy, very controversial. Especially Bubba / Bully Ray, whatever you call him now, like being one of the most, I think, one of the most kind of underrated people on the microphone in terms of a villain. I know, obviously, me and you both being villains on DKW, like you got to admire some of that kind of mic work, surely.
Oh yeah, it wasn't just his mic work. I remember Bubba Ray used to have this death stare. And, my other half always says like she loves to watch me in the ring because I've got this death stare. And Bubba Ray, when he used to do the power bomb through the table, his eyes would just open up and he'd sit there and just stare off into space with this death stare. Oh, it was so amusing to watch. And at one point, he even had a stutter when he used to do the microphone.
Yeah,
he used to go, "We're the Dudley boys."
Yeah, I mean, they had the Dudley family as well, didn't they, in ECW? So like a kind of ensemble of them.
Yeah.
In ECW. Paula, like, what are your kind of thoughts about Dudley Boys, like championship wise? Do they deserve that kind of accolade of most title one?
Easily. They revolutionized the idea of weapons in tag team wrestling. Like, you've got people that revolutionized tag team wrestling, where it's just the basic rules, tag in, tag out. But they revolutionized the idea of weapons and tornado tag team matches. Because although Texas tornado matches were a thing back then, it was never that big. Then you bring in the Dudley Boys and ECW, and suddenly it's blown up and everyone wants to do it.
But yeah, I feel you get a whole different type of tag match with the Dudley Boys. And they bring that kind of hard-hitting style, even when they're not doing the, stuff they did in ECW. You're still getting the hard-hitting style. And Sam obviously mentioned the power bombs, and one of the most iconic kind of Attitude Era moments is Mae Young being power bombed off the off the ramp. And it is that death stare of like, oh my god, and something which obviously Bubba definitely as a singles wrestler has carried on. So singles success wise, it wouldn't be kind of untrue to say out of the three tag teams we're discussing today that singles success hasn't really come to the Dudley Boys as much as it has for the other teams at least. Definitely think of Devon, like he had that weird brand split in 2002 where they split all the tag teams. Very famous in WWE. So they split the APA up, and obviously we did get JBR out of that, and that was cool. And Fruit retired. They split the Hardy Boys up, and they kind of Matt Hardy did the cruiserweight stuff, I guess, over on SmackDown. Jeff ends up obviously out the company, but more on that later. But the Dudley Boys kind of like Bubba just ended up teaming with Spike, didn't he? Well, Devon went with Batista to become Reverend Devon.
Oh, that was a weird one.
There's not really been much single success, and I mean, but to both of you, do you think it's because they are just seen as a tag team, more than like the other tag teams and that we're going to mention today?
I don't think that is the case, because Bubba has had success outside of tag team wrestling, outside of WWE. He's only done that in promotions where Devon's not there. If
you
look at Impact Wrestling,
Impact to being exclusion.
He's held the world title a few times. One of the occasions being Devon also there, and they were in the same faction of Aces and Eights. However, they were both singles champions in TNA during the Aces and Eights era. They didn't hold the tag team titles then. So there's obviously opportunities where they both held singles titles and had singles runs, but nothing I'd consider to be major and being a turning point in the company.
Okay, same to you, Sam. I mean, do you have a view on their single success, or why they haven't had potentially as much as the other people on our discussion?
It's a hard one with tag teams, because you get some tag teams where they split off and have great single success. Obviously, examples being Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. But and then obviously with Edge and Christian and the Hardys themselves, having lots of success, especially Matt with his broken Matt Hardy gimmick. But then, like with a lot of other tag teams, like the Road Warriors and stuff like that, once they split up, that's it. They don't really have that chemistry on screen, or not given the opportunity to sort of really flourish in a singles division. I think the Dudleys fell into that trope of being a tag team, and they've never really sort of been able to reinvent themselves as singles wrestlers. And I think like D1 had a little bit of like when he did the Reverend, and then obviously that introduced Batista into the fold, who would obviously go on to be very big. And then Bubba Ray had his Impact run, where he had a little bit of success there, but everyone will always sort of see them as the Dudley Boys because, like I said, they reminded me of the Trailer Park Boys. You know, they were like, it was like they were one big hick family.
Yeah.
And that's what made them so likable, is they were just this great big family of misfits.
Even Spike Dudley, he'd never had single success really. He had a bit of a cruiserweight time, but that was even as a Dudley.
Yeah, they never kind of escaped that kind of name, I guess. Obviously, they returned to WWE a few years ago, and you know it didn't give them another title run, which at one point it was looking like it was, but it was during the time where the New Day was setting their record. But they did get into the WWE Hall of Fame, and so they are the only team with both members currently in Hall of Fame. And obviously D1's now retired and is a producer for WWE, while Bubba Ray was most recently wrestling in Ring of Honor, but has left the promotion as of earlier this year. You know, so final question really. Where do they rank in this? If there was an all-time list, are they the best tag team of all time?
I wouldn't rank them as the best tag team of all time. I would put them at number 3.
I'd eat top 5 for sure. Maybe 4 or 3, like in between. Depend if I really looked into it, I'd probably put them 4 or 3.
I think it's hard because, like, kayfabe wise, like they are, because like they won the most titles, and they've had fantastic success, and it's something which, you know, it is just commendable that they've had, you know, on and off for 20 years together, the tag team. In this, weirdly, they never really feuded either. Like, not in a major promotion anyway. Like, they never feuded like properly.
They briefly had a rivalry in TNA, but it was nothing. It wasn't a long rivalry.
No,
it was just short.
When I did my research for this, I was looking and thinking, well, the other tag team, we know that Edge and Christian definitely had a feud after they split, and Hardy Boys definitely they've
feuded multiple times.
You know, lots of different in multiple universes, as it's Matt Hardy. We can't count that out. But yeah, so I think, we've discussed the Dudley Boys in a lot of detail. I think definitely there are some. So, final question, actually. I said final question last time, but final question is, what's the kind of defining moment of the Dudley Boys then? Your favourite Dudley Boys moment or memory?
Well, I suppose my favourite Dudley Boy moment is not the TLC match, but when they had the triple threat ladder match.
SummerSlam 2000, I think.
It was either SummerSlam 2000 or WrestleMania 2000. And they had that big, massive triple threat ladder match, and some of the moments they were coming up with. You know, had Edge and Christian coming in with the chairs, had Jeff and Matt coming in with the ladders, and then obviously I think it was the one where Bubba Ray stacked the tables right up, and then he ended up knocked off, and he went through about 4 tables. So that's an iconic moment. And obviously the best moment of all time was when he was powerbombing people off of things. And he had that infatuation with Trish Stratus when she was part of TNA.
TNA.
And all he wanted to do,
the tag team TNA people.
He was obsessed with her, not because he thought she was beautiful. It's just because he really wanted to power. I know the feeling.
It's different times. Same to you then, Porter. Favourite Dudley Boys match or moment?
My favourite one, not the best one. My favourite one is when they split up in TNA.
Oh.
Because not because I was glad they split up, but just because it was really well done. It didn't last very long, but it was perfectly done for them to split up, because then they reunited later on in the line, both as heels.
Fair enough. Fair play. But right, there we have it. The Dudley Boyz. We're going to move on and we're going to talk about the other tag teams coming out very soon. Thank you for joining us, Sam. Demolition, of course, good luck this week with your British title match, Triple Threat. And we shall see you again very, very soon. Thank you for joining us.
You guys take it easy.
Yeah.
You think you know me, you think
Guest, a very, very good friend of mine. Very good friend of mine, and his first time on the Talking Crap podcast. Please welcome Ben Hewitt. How are you, Ben?
Hello. I'm very well. I'm very well, thank you.
Good to hear. I mean, we were talking about, it might be, we were talking about the tag team, defining tag team for the early 2000s, right? We've spoken about the Dudley Boyz previously. We're now going to talk about Edge and Christian, So Dudley Boyz we talked about, and we spoke about their longevity. 20 years basically the tag team. Edge and Christian, doing my research for this, 3 years their initial run, 99, 2001, and a couple of mini reunions, but not really as a tag team. Just when Edge decided to help Christian win the World Championship in 2010, and peep show appearances and stuff like that since. But is it just remarkable that they were only together 3 years and had so much success?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things I wanted to bring up as well, because it's it is insane when you think 3 years as a professional run, as the proper run they had. That's insane when you think about they are still on the same pedestal as the other teams, in question. And that really does give a huge testament to how good they actually were.
Yeah, I think as well, of the three teams, they really racked up those titles really quickly. And I think that escalated them to being seen more important. I think as much as, titles, you can say titles don't mean much, like they do. That's your bread and butter for a wrestler. And, end of the day, you've got tag teams like Lucha House Party, been together for I think 3 years, 4 years. No belts. No one cares about them. But you've got, just saying it like that, you would say it, blunt like that, but Edge and Christian, the tag team who 7 WWE title reigns within 2 years, 7 reigns of the belts within 2 years. And obviously they interchanged them with the other tag teams we're talking about quite often, Hardys and Dudleys and all that kind of stuff. And I think as well, they're the only one of the 3 teams to be WWE exclusive. So obviously the Hardys and the Dudleys had success elsewhere. So are Edge and Christian potentially the best WWE only tag team?
I mean, if we're talking out of the 3, I would say certainly. I mean, without just because, as you say, the Dudley Boyz obviously originated ECW, and then they were went to WWF a lot later on, and then the same with the Hardy Boyz were they were WWF, but then went to TNA, and then they kind of split up and they've reformed and they've gone here and there. But whereas Edge and Christian, I think the only time you can register those as a team is in the World Wrestling Entertainment. That is where they've always been. That's where the team will always be known.
Yeah, because obviously Christian wasn't always in WWE, but he was only a tag team in WWE.
Yeah. I mean, let's throw this out there then. Let's say something had happened in mid-2000s and Edge and Christian found themselves in another wrestling promotion. Would they have success in another promotion, like a TNA or in Japan, or, I'm trying to think mid-2000s kind of thing. Would they have had success elsewhere as a tag team? I think they would have done. But what do you think, Porter?
I think they would. However, I don't think they'd have as much success as the Dudley Boyz and the Hardy Boyz, only because WWE is arguably the only promotion that you can easily just take 2 singles guys and turn them into a successful tag team. Because obviously, Hardy Boyz, they're brothers, they've been working in professional wrestling their entire lives together. The Dudley brothers, they started out as a tag team. That's where they got their success, from being a tag team. Edge and Christian, they were singles competitors beforehand, but they were no ones as singles competitors.
Yeah.
Then when they were a tag team
Well-
with the Brood, was when they started going up. Then they went on to have massive singles careers on their own.
Yeah, we'll get to see their singles bit in a second. But same question to you, Ben. Do you think they would be as big a success if they went elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would have had success, but not necessarily as a tag team. Just because I feel like it's kind of they're a very unique example of tag team wrestlers, because obviously on their own, you know, as singles wrestlers, they're both very good in their own right. But I think, you know, for me, Edge he just outshines Christian in terms of a singles competitor. And I feel like another company might have seen that and kind of tried to rise one above the other early on. I mean, they wouldn't necessarily have been as successful. It just seemed like it was the right thing at the right time, especially with the Brood. And then coming from that, and then it was like they just totally, you know, Gangrel was supposed to be the leader, and then suddenly it's like the two of them just kind of completely outshone the Brood themselves, and then it's Edge and Christian. So. Yeah.
I think that's when you know I think something's worked, when you know the original leader. You know, something we're going to speak about potentially in the future episode is like Nation Domination. When we're talking about the fact that The Rock, you know, Farouk was the leader of that originally, but The Rock just became a megastar and meant that he had become a leader. And it's similar here with Edge and Christian with Gangrel. Like Edge and Christian are still enjoying success and podcasts and appearances in 2020, whereas obviously, you know, Gangrel sadly isn't. You know,
he's still on the indie circuit, but that's about
doing
it.
Indie somewhere. So let's move on to that.
He was on AEW. He was on AEW in Full Gear.
Was it? Was it? Jesus.
They're literally one just gone. He was on it.
Oh,
He was on it.
he still exists.
Yeah, he kidnapped the Hurricane and he had him held hostage and said to Matt Hardy, I was your mentor. You never respected me. Like, you know,
So I haven't seen Full Gear, so I might have to now to see Gangrel for the first time in long. But anyway, we'll move on to their single success, and you know, you're definitely right here. I mean, it is arguable here who's had kind of like, you know, all out of the two tag teams, you know, Edge and Christian and Hardy for sure, like they both enjoyed single success in different ways, but Edge definitely was the megastar kind of everyone here. So I think you're right with the thing of that if he went to another company, they would have seen him as a singles wrestler and he would have enjoyed a lot of single success. But, you know, is it fair to say that their single success is the reason why they didn't obviously reunite before Edge retired? And, you know, Edge, did he need, I mean, the single success he got, like that was, you know, far above anything the tag team could have got him. Is that fair to say?
I'd say so, yeah. Wait, who's going first?
I mean, I think you go.
All right. I'd say yes, but only in the. If had Christian come back to WWE sooner than he did, I think maybe they would have reunited. But Christian was having so much success as a singles competitor in TNA that there was no reason for them to reunite. They were doing multiple world titles each in their respective promotions. They had no reason to.
Yeah, same to you.
That's pretty interesting. Actually, you're bang on. Actually, like because obviously, you know, Christian went on to be Christian Cage in TNA, and his career there was just like amazing, as you say, just world titles, and his charisma really shone through because before he left WWE, he had adopted that character. He used to come out with, you know, Tyson Tomko, and he used to do like the hood, and he had that great music. And I think we all knew at that point that Christian was going to become a star either way, like whether he went to TNA or whether he stayed. It was just obviously Edge was always the one who just kind of had that little bit more. And I really don't actually know why exactly. If I, you know, to put my finger on it, you know, they're both superb wrestlers. They both had world-class matches. I think some of Randy Orton's best matches ever are with Christian. Honestly, I think he had some amazing matches with Christian. But then so did Edge. So, and then obviously Edge did teamed with Randy Orton for a while as well. So it's just you know, it's all to do with ring chemistry as well. I think that's a big part of it. And I think Christian was just able to work with so many people really well. I think that's what, another reason why he did so well.
You mentioned Christian working with Tomko in WWE. He then goes to TNA, does the exact same thing. With the hood and everything. Like, they had success together in multiple promotions for no reason whatsoever, other than because someone saw it in WWE and tried it out again.
But then, what we need to later on, obviously this is skipping a bit, we get to the Hardys, we're talking about Matt Hardy, starting a gimmick in TNA, which then went to WWE, then now it's gone to AEW. So it's, it has worked the other way too, where, it's happened that way. So next talk about is out of the three teams, I think they are definitely the funnest of the three tag teams in the sense of, the stuff they did with Kurt Angle was just phenomenal. Like I think honestly that there's a lot of comedy in wrestling nowadays. Stuff like with Orange Cassidy and R-Truth and lots of that stuff. But I think Edge and Christian were kind of the king of the skits. The backstage skit they did with Kurt Angle, the stuff they did with the interaction with other tag teams, the parodies, the 5-second poses, like. Let's talk about some of that now. Like, I think so much of it is coming back to me as I'm saying it. But what are your favourite kind of fun moments of their time, of their tenure? First to you, Ben.
I mean, yeah. As you say, there are so many funny moments with Edge and Christian, just as a team in general. I think. One of my favorite moments, controversially bringing up the name Chris Benoit, is actually when Edge and Christian did Chris Benoit's theme music backstage, and it's one of my favorite moments ever. And it was just like Chris Benoit is here, and he's really mad. It was great, and it was just out of nowhere. It was. I'm sure it wasn't a planned thing either. There's no way, like. Do you know what I mean? So that was one of their strong suits. The fact that they were such good friends, and the fact that they worked so well together, and they were just able to improvise and come up with just great comedy moments like that. It was just, and like you said, the 5-second pose, that was a great thing because they did it. I think they did it on one Raw sometime, and it just as a little thing, and then it just became a massive thing all on its own, and and then it was a big skit. Great stuff. Yeah, a
lot of that though is the Attitude Era summed up though. Like Stone Cold said 316 in the promo against Jake Roberts, King of the Ring, and it became literally a license to print money for the rest of his career. And the same thing with Pose. But I think it's unique because it's of its time. Because a lot of people, I mean, obviously, Porter's young, like he looks old, but he's younger than us, Ben. But a lot of people won't know about cameras being an actual thing, and that kind of having to pose for a photograph and not having just to pick up your phone and go click. You have to pose, and sometimes you have to wait for the photos. And it was such a unique thing, and it's still something which obviously they're still remembered for now, which I think is great. Same for you, Porter. Then favorite fun Edge and Christian moments.
My favorite one easily when Edge was showing Kurt Angle the pictures and he had bits written on the back. Easily got to be my favorite. One that I think definitely needs a little bit of a highlight is it was more recent when Edge and Christian came back. I think it was like Raw 1000 or something, and they bumped into the New Day. New Day obviously had a trombone. Edge and Christian had their kazoos.
Oh, yeah, they did a duet, didn't they?
Anytime Edge and Christian have a kazoo, it's going to be hilarious.
I think it's made funnier by the fact that they're now in their 40s.
Yeah,
and it's made funnier, I think, by that. But look, we get to the nitty gritty thing then. So 3 years together as a tag team, 7 championship runs in the WWE. Obviously, amazing singles success. As we've only just touched the surface of. Definitely both of them. Edge now in the Hall of Fame. Christian, maybe one day. I think he should, to be fair. But
if I'm correct, he's in the TNA World Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is. But
yeah.
The WWE one's one that counts.
Yeah, but he got in a Hall of Fame, so it's
there's not
relevant.
A lot of happy people that won bronze medals at the Olympics. Let's put it that way. But if we're doing an all-time list, of tag teams, where do they sit, Edge and Christian? And this is all time.
I'm gonna. This is gonna be quite controversial, but I'd have to put them at number one.
You think they're the best tag team?
They had possibly the best moments for fans, comedy or otherwise. They picked up the most title wins, like at the beginning of their career, that anyone ever has in like 2 years. And they had so much chemistry. And they worked perfectly as singles competitors. Like the fact that they could come back together and get a massive pop, or be separate and still get a massive pop, kind of just shows how good they were. So I'd put them at number one.
Oh, well, but you, Ben, you said about Dudley then being the top there, but is it shared kind of universally?
Yeah.
It's not. It's an opinion.
The thing is, No, I know. The thing that I have to consider as well is like we're talking just as a tag team, and obviously if you think of a lot of the other tag teams that you could put up there, they are part of a faction. You know, like Degeneration X, for example, or like NWO or people like that. There's always more than two, but Edge and Christian are a two. Like they were in the Brood, but you know that's a different story. We're talking.
They were in the Brood as Edge and Christian.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So, and as a team, Edge and Christian, they are the best tag team. Like they are, because just you know, just as you said, they have everything. They're both good on their own. They're both funny. They're both charismatic. They're both good in the ring. They're both, you know, they have everything. And the fact that they could work together as a team as well as being on their own as singles competitors, I think that's what sets them aside. You know, as a tag team, no one else has done that in the same success. No one, not like there isn't anyone.
I think Edge and Christian, that tag team, that once you like them, you love them, and I think it definitely showed both of you guys. Like saying, obviously, you put them that high up. Like, I don't know. I've always preferred the tag team we're going to talk about next. With our next guest, I've always preferred the Hardys. I've always thought they were, you know, at the top there just for the synchronicity. But Edge and Christian, definitely the most enjoyable tag team to watch, I think. And of this kind of era, just if you're talking about just that era, that snapshot, and you had no other actors as tag team wrestling, Edge and Christian are the team to watch during that kind of snapshot of wrestling history, in my opinion. But yeah, look, thanks for joining us, Ben. It's been a pleasure. It brings up always great memories, you know, from 20 years ago, getting into it as a fan properly. You're talking about these three tag teams. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Ben, and we shall see you very soon, hopefully. Stay safe. Okay, so our final guest, with making his return to the Talking Crap podcast, we have favourite of ours, favourite of yours, we have Vinny Daniels.
Hello, always a pleasure to be here. Love the Smoking Crack podcast.
He's still trying to get that renamed, isn't he? Stop
Hashtag...
trying to get Fetch over. It's not going to work.
Smoking Crack. How's the shed, Josh?
The shed is standing upright like it should be, which is impressive considering the amount of crap that has piled up in there.
You love to hear it.
I've been in that shed outside of that
shed. You've been in the other shed.
What? Oh yeah, there's two sheds.
Yes, the shed we were talking about is just full of tools and stuff like that.
As most sheds are, to be fair. What's in the other shed is what I want to know.
If you've ever been to a mechanics and you've seen like those big red toolboxes that are super heavy.
Yeah.
We've got like two of those in there.
Like the ones in Home Alone.
Just full of crap.
So how it's not falling through the floor, I don't know.
In the other shed, if you must know, Vinny, is dolls' houses. Just dozens of dolls' houses.
Toys.
I was hoping it was going to be like a meth lab.
Probably in one of those boxes somewhere. Alcohol, food, a dartboard.
Yeah,
I think Matt Ball's in there somewhere.
He's still
the legend of Matt Ball.
But right, look, we're talking about the defining tag teams of the early 2000s, and it's weird we say this because the next tag team we're about to discuss, the Hardy Boyz, they won their last championship in April last year. So, and we're still talking about them as, you know, being a tag team and that. But anyway, the Hardy Boyz, you know, the first one we're going to lead with is they've got to be seen as one of the most influential tag teams of all time. A lot of tag teams who form, kind of always cite the Hardy Boyz as their kind of reason for teaming, more so than I think almost kind of every other tag team. You've got obviously the Young Bucks, Motor City Machine Guns, that have been major players who have just said, we saw the Hardy Boyz wrestle as a tag team, and we became wrestlers and we became tag team wrestlers. Like, what is about the Hardy Boyz that, above even the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and Heart Foundation and others, makes people go, right, we want to be like them?
Rumor has it they even inspired Team Super Fabulous.
Oh, yes. Top tag team of the 2016 era.
But yeah, I think it's just the charisma, the style. I think they just offered something for everyone. Just you looked at them, they were just cool. They especially the early 2000s. They just scream that era, like not just in wrestling, but in whole of pop culture, sort of almost, a bit grungy, but not really fully grunge, a bit, with the Jeff with the dyed hair, Lita, who's obviously a good looking girl, and their style, the weapons, they just had it all, and they epitomised what cool was of that era.
That they had arguably the best theme song of a tag team ever.
Yeah, it's up there.
I think Jeff Hardy still holds the record for the best theme song ever.
I think
with
one of the most recognisable. I mean, the pop they got when they returned at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Just from the opening 2 beats or whatever, people knew it was them. It's so iconic.
They're very loved.
You can't miss it.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
They're very loved tag team.
And I'd say overall they've probably had the most recognisable success on the indie scenes. Like the Dudley Boyz had the most title wins on the indie scenes and over in Japan, but I'd say the Hardy Boyz were the most recognisable on the indie scenes. Yeah, they were easily the favourites.
Particularly the tour they did before, obviously returning at Mania, where they were kind of doing the whole kind of quest for gold, and they won tag championship up, all around the globe, really. And they obviously did feud, and kind of the Young Bucks. Obviously, it's hard not to mention them with the Hardys now because they have literally said we are the new Hardy Boyz. It's hard kind of not to see the similarities, in the sense of the style and kind of the look of the team and everything. And I think you're definitely on something, Vinny, with the comment about them kind of encompassing pop culture, because it was cool at the time, like Limp Bizkit, like huge bands, start the 2000s. The Hardy Boyz, they just literally fit right in with that. South Park watching, kind of audience that was there. And you mentioned Lita, so the Team at Dream, very unique, because obviously that was a unique change for women's roles in wrestling. Lita was able to get physical, not just with the women, but with the men as well. She was able to, hold her own, and she was doing one of the first women to be doing stuff like moonsaults and dives and all that kind of stuff. It's a style that we hadn't seen yet from the women.
Yeah. And back with Lita as well, you look at the TLC matches with the Dudleys and Edge and Christian, they each had their third, person as a leveler. Dudleys had Spike, Edge and Christian had Rhino, and Jeff and Matt Hardy had Lita. Yeah, they had Lita, but the fact that she was a woman wasn't a fact, that any different. She was getting just as involved in that match as what Spike and what Rhino were, taking bigger bumps, if anything.
And Lita was more of a man than Spike ever was. Let's be honest.
Bit harsh on Spike.
Yeah, so that's not body shame. I love Spike.
I'm not body shaming. I'm saying attitude.
Obviously, the Hardy Boyz, they brought the ladder element to the TLC match. Obviously, Dudley Boyz brought over the tables from ECW, and to be fair, they inherited those from Public Enemy. Let's not forget. And obviously, Edge and Christian had the chairs, but the ladder, I think, is still just one of those kind of beloved, iconic weapons, really, in wrestling history, and something which I think the Hardy Boyz definitely have had. Into the ladder matches, like some of the best ones. Jeff singly as well, include those ones with CM Punk, with Edge, I want to say.
That one with Undertaker as well, Badass American Undertaker. Yeah, that was really good.
And recently with Sami Zayn and AJ Styles.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Little fact here about Jeff, he's actually won titles in 4 different decades in WWE, which is just absolute madness. He joins Goldberg in that same category, but overall companies. So we'll talk about their singles success then. So it's weird this, because obviously Dudley Boyz was very simple, I think, where we decided, Bubba Ray had success in the Indies, Devon did basically fuck all. Edge and Christian, obviously, Edge became a megastar and, you know, Hall of Famer and, you know, all the rest of it. And Christian, very, very good, but, you know, upper mid-card act. The Hardy Boys are so varied in the sense of, you know, Matt did a lot of different things. A lot. And obviously, as it's been touched upon in AEW this year, when he's popped out all these different gimmicks. Whereas Jeff, I'm going to say this on record here, there's never been, you know, since the days of Hulk Hogan and The Rock and, you know, those kind of ilk, you'll never find anyone more over and beloved than Jeff Hardy was 2008, 2009. People were crazy for him as a single star. And he obviously has been a former world champion in the WWE and an Impact, etc. But singles-wise, Matt's obviously relied heavily on this career resurgence with the Broken Universe, which we will touch upon in a second. But is it fair to say that Jeff is the most successful singles competitor out of the two? It's a hard one.
Yeah. I would say he just about edges it. I think he's I think the fact, the proof of him being so over as well as the fact, you know, looking at if any other wrestler had the same sort of, you know, wellness policy violations that Jeff had, he wouldn't be getting let back in the company, let alone the chances of being sort of, he's had, you know, been in the upper card as well as mainly the upper mid card, but he's been, you know, knocking on the door of the upper card many a time. But I'd say in terms of who's mixed, they've both been in their own way. I mean, you know, you look at Matt Hardy with the Broken Matt Hardy, that really, I think, surpassed anything that Jeff ever did in terms of, you know, going viral and being over. So they've both had, like I said, success. I think more so than Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys as individuals. But if you looked over the past, say, 20 years, then I think Jeff just about edges it because he's been in the upper card for just that bit longer.
What do you think, Josh?
I'd give it to Jeff. I'd say Matt's had the more creative success with the broken gimmick mainly. Yeah. But Jeff's had more single success in the sense of he's had more championship reigns, he's had more storylines, he's had more rivalries. Even Matt's success in creative was still involving Jeff Hardy because Broken Matt Hardy was invented after Jeff injured him in a match.
Yeah.
Jeff broke Matt, which is what created this whole broken idea. Yeah. Jeff was there.
He got brought into that broken universe as well in TNA. He got brought into the broken universe.
Yeah, because Matt was currently holding the Money Matt Hardy gimmick as the TNA World Champion. And then after he lost it, he then had a rivalry with Jeff Hardy. Then Jeff puts him through a table from like the rafters or something, which is what breaks Matt Hardy.
I think as well, Jeff to get over just has to be Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Like he organically is just over. People just seem to, for some reason, the WWE Universal, wherever he's at, TNA, wherever he's been, the fans just organically just like him for him. And don't Matt Hardy can get over and has been very over, but every time he's done it, he's had to work very hard and really, you know, push a gimmick as such, you know, with the broken Matt Hardy stuff and really, you know, go a bit wacky, do lots of stuff. Whereas Jeff Hardy just had to turn up and be Jeff Hardy and the crowd would cheer him.
Yeah, realistically, Jeff Hardy's never really changed his gimmick. He's changed his look, but he's never changed his gimmick.
Yeah, I think obviously Jeff is a unique performance in terms of, you know, you're going to see something absolutely mad from him. And the risks that he takes, and I'm hoping that obviously he just reduced them as he gets older. I do want to see a lot more of Jeff Hardy and not, you know, in a wheelchair, preferably. But I think Matt definitely, he's always just been okay to, like, there's other people that could be Matt Hardy as just Matt Hardy. But when he adds the Broken Universe into it, or version 1, I think we can't skip over that. That was a very, very over gimmick for him in the 2000s.
Money Matt Hardy sucked. So bad.
And yeah, I think, I'd agree with you guys. I think Jeff, he edges it. Definitely in WWE anyway. But even outside of it, I think just because he's been able to always kind of be booked by his own. So the next question, obviously, we touch upon it just then, is, you know, would they have had more success? And this is mad saying this. They're a team that's won over 20 championships together, all throughout the world. But would they have had more success, either separate or together, if Jeff didn't have these addiction problems? You know, would there be more title reigns? Would Matt or Jeff or both of them been like extra world championship reigns at all?
I don't think so. I think, like I said before, I touched on it before, breaching the wellness policies. More often than not, if you do that, you're just out of the company or you're just booked bad. But he seemed to be, Jeff was booked strongly regardless because he was so over and so adored. So I don't think it made. Don't think it would have made a difference if he was clean because he still had how many world title reigns? 3, 4?
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's still every opportunity for WWE to stick another one on him because
perhaps
he's won the Intercontinental title a handful of times since he's been back.
Yeah,
and he's still in like the mid card title picture.
Where he stated that's what he wants.
So there's every opportunity.
That's his goal to win the championships before his current contract with the WWE expires.
I think he easily could. And you say he's not reducing his stunts. He is. He's using smaller ladders.
Well, is that because we're in the no fan era, which is it's a kind of separate thing, I guess, perhaps. I think as well, Jeff. When you think about Jeff, you think of those, like I said, those massive ladders and those massive risks that he's taken. Don't get me wrong, Matt Hardy's taken some of those bumps, but it's always been Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff's the main one.
Out of the 3 tag teams, so we touched upon the Dudleys earlier. They never really had a feud. Edge and Christian did have a feud, but it was very much what I'd call like a TV feud, where it was kind of a case of they split up, they had a couple of matches, it was done dusted. But Matt and Jeff have gone to war, like a lot.
Oh yeah,
they had the initial feud when they first split, in like 2001 or so. They had a few matches, and then they had a massive feud in WWE, which obviously had a Mania match, really underrated Mania match.
Which is where
Matt Hardy won, didn't he?
I think that's where. No, Matt Hardy had his hand broken after being. Was that not the one where he was tied to a table?
No, that was Extreme Rules. They had an I Quit match at Extreme Rules the month after WrestleMania, where they had WrestleMania was like a street fight or something like that. But Matt Hardy won that when Jeff decided to do like a leg drop from the top rope or something. Matt moved, and then he did a twist of fate with his neck in the chair. Don't know what it is with Jeff and facial things happening to him, but anyway, they had I think out of the 3 tag teams, they definitely had a successful feud, definitely WWE, and we touched upon it obviously in Impact as well. Is that just adding more to the fact that it's that natural chemistry I guess they've got as brothers, where they can feud, they can team, was their feud I don't really think there could be anything added to their feud.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be money in siblings fighting each other. There's always that story, no matter how many times that you do it, that's always there, and people are going to be invested. Edge and Christian, I know to start with kayfabe brothers, and the Dudleys are obviously half brothers, kayfabe. But the fans aren't stupid; they knew they're not, but people knew that Matt and Jeff are legit brothers, and there's money in that. People want to see, the real brothers fight and see who's going to come out top, who's the better brother, and they can go on and trade victories and losses forever. So they may have won on the feud 5 years ago. They could do it tomorrow, and I'd be interested again to see who the better Hardy is now. There's always money in that.
I mean, on that then, at the moment, at this point of time, they're in separate companies, and I believe Jeff signed a long contract with WWE, and I'm assuming Matt Hardy, I don't know what his contract deal is with AEW, but do you see one more kind of run of the Hardy Boyz?
In WWE or anywhere?
Anywhere.
Oh yeah, because people want to see the Hardy Boyz. So no matter what, they could be like 50, and people would, they could turn up, do a couple of spots.
They're going to be like the Rockers. Still go. Is it the Rockers?
Rock and Roll Express.
Rock and Roll Express, not the Rockers. I knew there was someone with the word rock in their name that was still going about.
Not the Rockers, not Mad Boy, Marty Jannetty, and Shawn Michaels.
But I think maybe they'll have a stint in AEW, but I don't see them tag teaming anywhere but AEW if they do in the possibility.
Nah, let's not forget, old school Raw. When they do that every once a year.
Yeah, maybe if
bring
they
them
do
back
like another special edition.
Yeah.
I don't think Matt's done enough to really kind of burn his bridge too much, and he is one of those. Yeah. There are some people that like Goldust, for instance. So it doesn't matter what they say; they'll always find a way back into the company if needed. And I think Matt Hardy's one of those, and it's more his wife, to be fair, that won't shut up.
Yeah, I think the thing with Matt is it's Vince, respects it in the same way Christian did the same thing. The WWE had nothing for him, so Christian said, "Right, well, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to be." Pushed in that, and he went to TNA, did really well, and came back. And I think as long as it's not, you know, you're not holding the company ransom like Jeff Jarrett did when he leave. I think Vince doesn't have an issue. You know, if he understands people are going to go and work elsewhere because they want to be pushed and have more success. As long as you're not shitting on WWE whilst you do it, I think he doesn't really have an issue.
I think it's one of those where perhaps we as fans see it as a bit more of an issue, but end of the day, like, you know, they're friends. They're all part of the same business. You know, it's mad we think of it like that, but it's a bit like, well, if you worked for Tesco, you'll be friends with someone who worked in Sainsbury's. Like,
exactly.
If they left, like, you're not going to just stop talking to them. I mean, you got, you know, famously, Xavier Woods is friends with like Kenny Omega, and obviously they've never been in the same company together. But look, we're going to wrap this up with the final kind of question of, like, you know, if we're doing our all-time list, best tag teams, we're talking about 3, which I think today, you know, definitely up there. But are the Hardy Boyz, like, are they the best tag team in history?
I'm going to say no, purely for the fact that although they had lots of tag team success and they were extremely recognizable, I'd say they are top 5, but I wouldn't say they're the best.
I'd say they're the second best.
Oh, who's the best for
Maybe.
you? Have interest.
Chronic from WCW.
I'm
joking. I think
the Undertaker. He might give you a different story on that.
Yeah. No, I think the Hardy Boyz are the best tag team of all time.
Yeah, I think for their tag team synchronicity, they brought, as much as the Rockers get fame for that, you know, they had the unison. They did everything in unison. They were together, and that brotherly bond. And it's weird we're talking about three tag teams where, obviously, like you said, Edge and Christian were Builders brothers, and so were the Dudley Boyz or Hart brothers. But these were actual brothers, and that connection never leaves. And I think, you know, yeah, like you're right. I think even if they are 50, you know, pushing 60, whatever, there will be a Jeff spot waiting to happen in a Rumble or at like a pay-per-view. Last question. When they stop calling themselves boys, like, you know, like the Backstreet Boys in their 40s now, like, you know, like, when do you stop becoming a Backstreet Boy or a Hardy Boy? Or is that kind of...
When the letter Z goes into action.
But yeah, been great having you on, as always, Vinny, discussing the Hardy Boyz and that. And look, we'd love to hear your guys, you know, picks and thoughts. You know, it's a popular area this for tag teams, it seems. And we'll be back hopefully next week with some more stuff for you from the Talking Crap podcast. Until then, I've been Lucas Jackson, joined by, thank you to our guest, by the way, thank you to Sam Defrain, to Ben Hewitt, and finally to Vinny Daniels, and of course, Chatty Josh, who've been here as always. We shall see you very, very soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.